First off, we need to know is, what's the secret to keeping a straight face?
Being able to laugh on the inside. Meaning you can crack a joke and you just get it. And you mean about life in general?
Well,
look, you know what? I think life plays tricks with us. We play tricks on ourselves. And I try to take things seriously when I should, and I try to take things things as they come. So I feel kind of relaxed about it all. But I still feel like my mission is incomplete. Working with everybody, doing certain movies that I shouldn't have done, doing certain for an adventure, doing certain ones to help out friends. Now I want to just sort of finish, on a different level.
Well, it's kind of interesting because the Saw franchise, in a bizarre way, has taken you from, well, I'll give this a go, to the cusp, really, of returning to the A-League. I mean, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
People will put it that way.
Yeah.
We can't ignore it.
Right.
But really, these movies are getting better and more interesting, and you're right there as it's happening.
Yeah.
Is that, obviously, it must be exciting, or do you just look at it as another of life's latest?
No, it is exciting just to get opportunities to play in the A-Leagues. I mean, there's some guys, like if you refer to sports, there's some guys that were world champions at a young age, then they lost their way and they found their way again. Like a divorce gets in the way, an accident, loss of loved ones, whatever happens to people. But I think that if you get a chance to play in the major leagues, if you had a few journeys, I think if you're ready, you're ready. I mean, I feel like I could do anything now, and I think that doing little things and experimenting and having no budget and not working with top class people who are learning themselves, I think it gets you ready for stuff you can handle most anything.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, having looked Saw 5, for example, you're put in a situation where you're asked to snap into a situation where you're terrified for your life. And no matter what you think of the movies, watching you do that, you really do get that sensation. You
Right.
sell it well.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what goes through your mind? Like, are you there thinking to yourself, oh my God, this is my one chance to act? Or what goes through your mind when somebody says, okay, you're terrified for your life, go?
Well, it's funny, the producers always make fun of me because in general, during these movies, I tend to be a bit of a practical joker. The crew gets me, I get them. We make each other laugh when we shouldn't, things like that. Then there's times when you got to turn it on and be a pro. But I think that after having different experiences in the movie world, I think you learn to trust yourself and you've got the guts or the instinct to just go with it. I mean, I remember I had to do a scene 4 different ways for 4 different producers and the director. And I had a minute in between every time somebody came up with a new idea. And I happily or luckily nailed everyone the way they wanted it. And they came out, they go, how do you do that? 1 minute you're cracking jokes and the next minute I said, well, I know my shit, I mean, can we say that on this channel?
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, I know my shit, give me a 2-picture deal. And they did the next day. I'm kind of, I trust myself enough and I'm no fuss. Whatever you got to do, just commit to it and go for it. Spencer Tracy used to say, stand there and say your lines. John Wayne, when in doubt, just stand there. I'm just going for it. And, I was lucky enough to work on a movie called Beowulf with Sir Anthony Hopkins and John Malkovich and Ray Winston and Brendan Gleeson. And all these guys, to me, have been at the top for years. And I didn't feel out of place. The more I fooled around with them, the more we were loose together, the easier it was. So
I guess having ping pong balls stuck all over your face is the great leveler in Hollywood.
It certainly was. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I was there for about 2 weeks before Sir Anthony, who loves to be called Tony, and Mr. Malkovich showed up. And everybody, the camaraderie had already started. And we were used to this ridiculous look. And I'll never forget, Tony and John Malkovich were called in, and it was their first day in this garb. And they'd been in the chair for 2 hours. And I remember walking in, and everybody was really silent, and they were kind of quiet. And it's like, the royalty's here. And there was like 8 people waiting because we have to get these little battery packs put on us and stuff. And I'll never forget walking in, and I just said this. I said, Sir, they weren't looking at me. I just started talking out loud. I go, Sir Anthony Hopkins is in the room, and John Malkovich, Sir Anthony and John Malkovich, and everyone's going, what's he going to say? And I said, have a look at him. They look as ridiculous as all of us. And the first two to laugh were those two. And that broke the ice, and after that, we laughed and set sail and had a ball.
Wow. So that's, I mean, in a sense, well, obviously you're living the dream. From anybody from Australia looking at you, it's just fantastic. But in the Hollywood world, you've had your ups and downs.
Right.
Just wondering, looking back, it's quite a while back now, the early days where you exploded and you were kind of neo Rat Pack. Obviously, Mobsters is the film that really put that into people's minds. But you're dealing with people like Christian Slater and Richard Grieco on a day-to-day basis. Did they influence you in an evil way? Did you find yourself falling into Hollywood pratfalls and perhaps snorting coke off every hooker's butt?
No, I didn't do that with them.
Yeah.
But you know what? Christian was an early bloomer in getting into trouble, and he wasn't used to alcohol. Yeah. And when he was around, he was like he was a kid still, basically. And he had past things, and he was sober and all that stuff. Grieco was, riding Harleys, pretending he was a biker. Patrick Dempsey was neurotic as hell. And I grew up in Melbourne with around gangsters and fighters and athletes, and I think I just had a lot more exposure to the real world than a lot of these young guys that grew up in LA. Mm-hmm. So, in a way, I wasn't much older than them, but I had certainly had more wear and tear and more awareness, I think, of a lot of stuff that's normal. Mm. So I learned nothing from them other than to laugh at them. And I've told them that all. Yeah. But you know what? I'm proud of where I grew up, and I think it gave me a nice launching pad to not be too swayed by anybody in Hollywood land.
Do you find yourself seeking out elements of Greek culture in LA? Are you looking for the best of lucky or a good Greek coffee or something? I
always search for that stuff, and sometimes there's no time for it, and as soon as I get the feeling, I mean, there's certain places that I go to, and at a certain hour, I'm like, I'm like Zorba the Greeks, demanding that put the Greek music on. Yeah. And every now and then they do it, and everybody seems to enjoy it. Mm. Break a few plates, do a few twirls, and it loosens people up, you know. Yeah. Yeah, but you always search for a little bit of the roots.
Where's a good place to get coffee in Melbourne?
In Melbourne?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I've only been there twice in 11 years, or maybe more. So I've got to find out when I get there.
If it's Melbourne, it should still be there.
Well, look, the best place to get coffee is the old man's kitchen.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Nice. All right.